And then, oh, by the way, we're waiting for this Jalen Carter thing, to which no information really from Nick. And he said, we're going to keep that in-house. But do we anticipate – I want to get your take on this. Do we anticipate that the league is having a hard time with this based on the involvement from Prescott? Then on Saturday, a college player spits on somebody. Maybe the NFL said, okay, we'll fine him. And then the college guy, do you look at this and say the NFL is kind of there's no precedent?
No, there's been spitting incidents in the NFL before. The only thing that's happened is things have changed over the years with personal conduct policy and, additions to that and different suspensions. So I don't think precedent per se is an issue. I don't think the NFL is having any trouble with this because of the college thing. And I certainly don't think, and I know this may rub some Eagles fans the wrong way, I don't think the Dak Prescott thing has one iota to deal with it. You're allowed to spit on the ground. You're allowed to talk a little. I know they're trying to crack down on taunting in the middle of a game a little bit, but you can't convince me, and I'm sure you can't convince anybody in the NFL, that the only way Jalen Carter could be disciplined, fined, suspended, or reprimanded in some way is if Dak Prescott also gets it too. Like that, come on. If the situation was reversed and if Dak Prescott was kicked out of the game instead of Jalen Carter, and Jalen Carter had spit on the ground, no Eagles fan in the world would be saying Jalen Carter should also be reprimanded or it would be fair. I mean, that is laughable to be even suggested that Dak Prescott would have to be either fined, suspended, or any reprimanded for spitting on the ground, which we see a billion guys do all the time.
No, and listen, it's just weird the way it was presented, right? It was that he gets thrown out of the game for spitting, and you clearly saw him spit. And I don't think anybody had a problem with the fact that he was kicked out or that punishment should have happened. Then there was some reports around halftime or right after halftime that there was two sources essentially claiming that Prescott provoked him or yada, 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 and then it will come out. Well, then NBC then shows this as if, and then he got like this maniacal laugh as like, I goaded you, I got you. Now, this, by the way, is the Walter Payton Man of the Year for the Dallas Cowboys here. So, you throw that into the mix, and that NBC kind of made this like, I don't know. It was just a weird situation, and that's why I was wondering if the Prescott thing changes any punishment for Carter at all.
Yeah, can't see that happening. I don't think so. Carter has a history himself of some sideline flare-ups, so I don't think that's going to help.
But, Moshe, you don't think the college player, like the whole thing of, okay, maybe we'll fine them, they're doing the sportsmanship thing. And then the college kid spits on a guy, and it's almost like that's exactly why you're being penalized, because that guy, this is a lower level of football that now can say, well, I saw a pro guy do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't think that factors in at all?
No, I think if the NFL is going to suspend Jalen Carter, it was already on their mind that they want to set a newer or reinforce. They always talk about reinforcing things that are already there. They want to reinforce that this cannot happen and should not happen and won't happen again without severe ramifications. If that's what they do, if they suspend Jalen Carter, that's the message they'll have sent. And I honestly, I haven't even seen. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen the college incident. I don't know how much of America has. I think most of America is now just hearing about it because it's in conjunction with Jalen Carter doing it. I haven't seen it making the rounds on social media as much as Jalen Carter. So I just think that the NFL is going to act, and then
I'll tell you what, Moshe, it was a pretty high profile game too. It's Florida versus South Florida, and the guy spits on the player, and it cost him the game. That penalty was a 15-yard penalty, and South Florida kicked the field goal to win, like 17-16. That spitting incident was the end of that game. And it was weird. There was a Saturday night, and so I don't know. You might be right about that. I'm just wondering if the NFL
I just think the NFL doesn't. They don't want this. And why should they? It's an inhumane thing to do.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't we don't have to nail the guy to the cross for the rest of his life, but he is a guy who has some baggage with him as far as his sideline demeanor, and he did something that's reprehensible, and he should be. My opinion sometimes is this: that the player was ejected from the game. He paid punishment for it. But I'm not the league, and the league always wants to make sure that more precedent is set, like you're saying, so it discourages players from doing this ever again. They don't want to ever see stuff like that again. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little bit of a draconian hand down here in the form of a punishment. We'll see. And yeah, well, I don't know. We'll just see. But I know that the NFL usually doesn't act with influence outside of what's best for the NFL.
Well, and then, and I don't know if this factors in all, they're doing sportsmanship, the incident with Lamar Jackson last night. Like, are they saying, look, we got these two situations that we don't want to deal with, so to make sure we don't have to deal with either of these again, both of you guys are getting the book.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, this has all happened after the NFL already told its teams they were cracking down this year on sportsmanship. It's kind of funny. Well, not funny, but it's kind of ironic, I guess, that these incidents would suddenly occur after the NFL. You saw it in the preseason, the taunting penalties. There were some taunting penalties I saw yesterday, just watching football, NFL football, that I thought, geez, that wouldn't have been called last year or the year before. So they're really cracking down on sportsmanship, and yet here you have, incidents like these happening.
Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, Philly voice as well, football at 4. All right, Za'DariusSmith in. They signed him after the game. Is this, hey, we were not happy with our pass rush? I mean, obviously Jalen Carter not being there changes the dynamic of the pass rush, but they go out and sign a legit guy. This isn't just some bum off the street. Za'DariusSmith had 9 sacks last year. So give us your read the tea leaves on why Za'DariusSmith is here.
Yeah, I think he had 4 sacks last year in 8 games, which projects to like 8 or 9.
He had 4 sacks with Detroit. He had 5 in Cleveland.
Oh, that's right. My fault. Good job. Good call on that. Yeah, so he's a good player. And he had, I know we'll get into this on Inside the Data with Sam Finkel on Inside the Birds later this week. Even his advanced pass, because sometimes stats can be misleading, but this guy's been doing it long enough that he's a legit pass rusher, a lot of quarterback hits, things like that. His advanced metrics look good too. The Eagles clearly, and I know Nick Sirianni said today that Azeez Ojulari is going to, make things happen. He's part of the team for the future. He said that last year about Devin White. And, after the first 4 weeks, Devin White was gone. Vic Fangio has made it pretty clear 2 things, right? He does not care about your contract. Doesn't matter about playing time for him. And then the second thing is, as we get to know him as an Eagles defensive coordinator, he really is comfortable with a 3-edge rotation. He had it last year with Bryce Huff sort of hurt and ineffective. He was really going with, early in the year, Jalen Hunt was mostly special teams. He was going with Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, occupying most of those snaps until Brandon Graham got hurt. Then you got to see a little bit more of Jalen Hunt as the season went on. And it was really just a 3-man edge rotation. And he's doing that again because Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith were your primary were your starters and your primary snap getters at that position. And then Josh Uche was the first guy off the bench. There was a couple, I think Patrick Johnson played 12 reps, but he's basically there for special teams. So if you're only going to play 3 edge rushers, and now you've just added Za'DariusSmith, and for the money he signed for and the history that he's got recently, he's going to be in that rotation. And if he's number 3, that sort of casts some doubt on what Azeez Ojulari and even Josh Uche are going to mean to this team going forward. You remember last year when it was clear they weren't going to play Devin White after the first 4 weeks, they worked on some contract resolution. The details really never came out, but he got his free agency, and then he went over to play for the Texans because they didn't want to wait. He didn't want to wait till the trade deadline, so he made some concessions. We'll see what happens with Azeez Ojulari if he's not going to play. Is he going to ask for his release, or is he going to work something out?
All right, Geoff Mosher, football at 4 here. Mike Hilton, he was working out according to reports today. He's a guy who's played a lot of slot. Is this a possibility that not only are they not happy with their outside corners, they might be so unhappy that they move Cooper DeJean out there and are looking for slot corners?
Yeah, I mean, you don't work out a guy and look, especially of that caliber and experience for no reason. So, and you're right, he is a slot corner. The guy's got more. This is weird. You don't find too many cornerbacks that have far more sacks in their career than they do interceptions. But that's Mike Hilton. He has like 11 and a half career sacks, and I think 1 career interception. So he's a slot guy. And if they're kicking the tires and they're looking at they got to be thinking about, well, what are we going to do if we move Cooper DeJean to the outside corner, because that's our best option. They like Mac McWilliams. They practice him at the slot and outside, but he's a rookie. And I don't know if they want to rely on that. And they may still give him a shot, but also have Mike Hilton there or someone like that for insurance. Right now they're just in the exploring phase, Mike.
All right, Geoff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. There's a quick breakdown. Carter, no news yet there. Za'DariusSmith is in, and Mike Hilton was in for a workout. Those are the big stories with the Eagles as they now get ready for the Kansas City Chiefs, who could start off 0-2. We'll keep our eye on that. Moshe's back on Wednesday. Football at 4 tomorrow with Adam Kaplan. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Mike. Talk to you Wednesday.